have questions? Here is the answer.
Kicking off the new series of Beyond the Void podcast, I'm joined by Cormac Neeson of The Answer.
Before the beers had even arrived, he'd set down these sheets of paper face down on the table, and he's like, right, turn them over. And it was, it was the first American leg of the ACDC tour, kicking off in like Chicago and 2 nights in Madison Square Gardens and swinging around to like the Giants football stadium and all these venues, and we're like, really? He's serious? Like Hockenheim Formula One ring in front of 110,000 people, like totally flat ground, just a sea of people as far as the eye can catch you.
Sister, love, brother, I need you to know.
With Sundowners, yeah, obviously, it's the title track. It opens the record as well. It really was a very old school approach. We went in and we did 3 or 4 takes. Once the vibe was there, we tracked it in no time at all. We purposely wanted to start the record with that because it's the longest track on the album, and it's kind of the trippiest, arguably the weirdest track on the record. So we're kind of like, right, if people get through that one, then gates are open. They're free to enjoy the rest of the good time rock and roll.
So I'm here with Cormac Neeson of The Answer. Thank you very much for joining me. I like to kind of start things off by, taking a look at the early years of a musician. So what first got you into wanting to become a singer?
I think it was the fact that my first band, when I was 14, already had 3 guitarists. And I wasn't very good on the keyboards, on the cheap Casio keyboard. So I was like, listen, I've got nothing else to do here, I'll sing, And even then, I don't think the other 3 guitarists in the band were particularly convinced, but it was one of those things that just kind of stuck at it. And here we are.
I mean, it seems like such a common thing. I hear it all the time, like the reluctant singer, the guy that's like, oh, I'll just do it for a while. And then they end up being that singer for just ever. I mean, like a lot of people will probably be quite surprised because, a lot of people associate with you with this kind of really powerful vocalist. Did you not kind of realize that until later on then?
It was definitely something I kind of grew into for sure. Yeah. Wouldn't have had any confidence at all in the early days, with my first band. I remember my first kind of performance in front of people was the school concert, and it was also the first time the band had ever played through a PA. At that point, we didn't have any gear. We had, the guitarist had an amp. I think for the first load of rehearsals, our drummer in those days was literally just using, boxes and pots and pans, and then eventually got a drum kit whenever we had a gig in the dairy. But hearing my voice coming back at me through a PA was a real shock to the system, and I didn't like it at all. And really, kind of rocked my confidence further, But I suppose, jumping forward a couple of years, with the help of alcohol and good friends, I kind of broke through that, and then I suppose, I did then start to kind of feel a bit more comfortable. Maybe not. Definitely didn't have a good grasp of my instrument, my vocals, but kind of enjoyed being the front man in a band. I enjoyed getting up there and having the banter between songs and dancing a bit and getting into it. And I think it was off the back of that time, whenever I was starting to kind of become a front man, if you like, that. The guys in The Answer then heard about me and came looking a singer, and I think from that point on, because the guys came looking, based on reputation, it kind of gave me a good boost, and I was kind of going into that whole project a bit more sure of myself as a vocalist and as a frontman. But even then, to this day, I still am very much trying to get the grips with vocals and continue to try and just, I suppose, find new ways to use my voice and just kind of it's a constant struggle for consistency as a singer, I think. Some gigs feel amazing, some songs feel amazing, and then you'll arrive in a different city the next night and the same song will just not feel right at all, and that's a constant thing I'm trying to. It's like any, I'm sure a guitarist will tell you the same thing, a drummer, bassist, whatever, keys. You can't ever really just sit back and go, yeah, I'm really good.
Smashed it. Yeah. No, I get that. Growing up for me, there's always kind of everybody always has that kind of first band that they really connect with. Did you kind of have that same thing where it's like you find a band and it's like that's your band? There were a few bands like that, whenever I was a young impressionable teenager. It was kind of right around the time of a load of amazing bands like Rage Against the Machine, Pearl Jam, and Smashing Pumpkins. In fact, if I had to pinpoint one band, one album, it would be Sammy's Dream by Smashing Pumpkins. I just remember really feeling an ownership on that record. I connected with it. I went down to, I'm from a small kind of seaside town just south of Belfast called Newcastle, and there's to this day it's like a kind of musical bookshop type thing, and I went down every week looking to see if the guy had ordered in my cassette copy of Sammy's Dream. And it took a good 2 months to get through from where, I don't know whether he was ordering it from Billy Corgan's own hand or what the problem was. But it eventually arrived, and I just cherished that record. I would listen to it as I put my head down at night. I'd have it blasting in the Walkman during the day. I sound really old, I know, but I would at any given opportunity play it for my friends. And even though, Billy Corgan's voice probably wouldn't be held up as the finest exponent of soulful blues rock, as I've tried to, get myself into over the years, there was still something really unique about that album. It felt kind of dangerous, and it felt like I was listening to something that my parents wouldn't, and yeah, I still want to hear that record and those multi-layered guitars and his very unique voice. It's still, I still get that feeling that you get when you listen to an amazing record that's meant something to you. I mean, I remember when obviously the first Answer record came out, Rise. That was kind of, for me growing up, that was one of the ones where I was like, wow, this kind of really struck a chord with me. It has that kind of classic rock sound, but modernized. When you guys were creating that first debut, did you feel like there was something happening there?
It definitely felt good, yeah. It's just a real trip for any band to record a full length album. It's kind of, at that point in your career, it's all your dreams coming true at once. You're actually making an album. And where we did it, we kind of split our time between an amazing residential studio called Mono Valley in Wales, and then finished the record in a legendary place called Olympic Studios in Barnes in London. And both these studios had so much history, great records recorded there. I think Oasis had done a load of good stuff in Mono Valley at the time, and then even more so in Olympic. Like you'd be sitting there having your lunch, and Eric Clapton would be sitting at the table across, and it's where the Rolling Stones did "Sympathy for the Devil." You know, that little documentary. It is shot, largely in Olympic Studios, and Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and all our heroes had all come through those doors, and it made you feel like you were someone special and that you were making something special, and yeah, I mean, I remember like the Zootons were in the studio across the hall, and we were hanging out with those guys, and like whilst I didn't play Shakira in Pro Evolution Soccer, I did play her 6'5" Colombian bodyguard, Northern Ireland v Colombia, on Pro Evo, whilst I was waiting for a guitar track to get done, so it was just a really weird little bubble, and yeah, like the music felt great, like the production team that we worked with, and just the whole team we had around us, it all seemed to come together. I had like still one of the best days of my life whenever we got in the morning, we got this like 24-piece string orchestra in to track a couple of songs, and then in the afternoon we had I think it was like a 6-person gospel choir, of which kind of it was left to me to kind of lead, these like singers, just forming these like 4 or 5 part harmonies in the moment, and I'm standing in the middle of them going, yeah, could you sing now, please? Could you do this? And it just, yeah, like I say, it was a young musician's dream coming true, and for those couple of months. So you still, whenever you come out the other side of it, and you think about this about every album, you're very proud of it, and you think you've done great work. But there's no guarantee that anybody's going to listen to it, So thankfully, like we did get a good kind of jump start off the back of that record.
I mean, speaking of that, obviously a little bit after that, you went on to tour with none other than ACDC. I mean, what was that time like for you? I mean, it seems like, well, it was in just the space of a few years, really. It was like a bit of a whirlwind. It came from like, I hadn't heard of you, to then supporting like one of the biggest bands on the planet.
Yeah, it was a very exciting time, obviously. The AC/DC tour, we were just finishing off our second album, Everyday Demons. We'd been in LA for a couple of months doing that, and then we, so it doesn't matter where you are or how world class the studio is, there's always patch ups that need to be done. You've forgotten about a tambourine part or a backing vocal here or there. So we were then in a studio in London called The Dairy, and I think we were only in for a week doing a few bits and pieces, and our label manager came down and says, right, I'm taking us out for a pint, and this was only at like midday, 12 o'clock, and whilst we absolutely drink pints at 12 o'clock when called upon. Normally label guy that was like, no pints, work, we're paying this. So we thought it was a bit weird, and we sat down, and before the beers had even arrived, he'd set down these sheets of paper face down on the table, and he's like, right, turn them over. And it was it was the first American leg of the AC/DC tour, kicking off in like Chicago, and 2 nights in Madison Square Gardens, and swinging around to like the Giants football stadium and all these venues, and we're like, really? He's serious? And he's like, yeah, and if they like you, they'll give you the next leg after that. And that's kind of the way the whole tour went for those couple of years. They just kind of kept renewing our contracts, to the point that actually they were going down to South America, and we had to come off the tour because we'd been on it for so long. We realized that if we didn't kind of come off the tour and make another record, there would have been no point in the momentum and the work that we've been putting in, So, a great time. Like some of the venues we played were ridiculous, and like Hockenheim Formula One ring in front of 110,000 people, like totally flat ground, just a sea of people as far as the eye can catch, and a lot of good times had. lot of 12 o'clock beers drank on that tour.
You got to, really. I mean, what kind of runs through your head as you're going out to a crowd of that size? I mean, I couldn't imagine that amount of people. I mean, I'd be bricking it, you know.
Yeah. Your head's in a bit of a spin now, I'm not going to lie to you, because you know, you're not. I don't think it's entirely possible to fully grasp what's going on, and if you try to, you know, there's a gig that you need to focus on. There's lyrics that you need to remember, and you know, vocal technique that you need to try and tap into. But I think, you know, the main overriding thing is just let's just go out and kill it here, you know, and breathe it in deep and try and enjoy these moments, and and hope to God that you get the monitor mix that you were during sound check.
Jumping forward to where we are now, of course, the Answer are back, and with a new album on the way too, entitled Sundowners. Last year, you know, to my surprise, you know, you guys came out with the first single, Blood Brother. You know, from the outside looking in, you guys immediately feel like this kind of re-energized band again. Kind of what prompted you guys to come back and make your return now?
I suppose we had got back in the room together pre-COVID. So I suppose, like the whole world, you know, the best laid plans were all delayed by 2 years anyway. So I think it kind of seems like a longer time than I suppose what maybe was our original intention whenever we got together and writing songs together. That said, I mean, when we did kind of take a sabbatical, if you like, and go off and do our own thing and make solo records and do lots of different kinds of stuff, there was no set you know, deadline or plan, or it wasn't like, right, I'll see you back in this spot this day 2 years. You know, it was kind of right. Good luck. Let's keep in touch, and when it feels right, we'll know, kind of thing. Which is a very very weird place for a musician to be, given that we, you know, like I joined the Answer when I was 18, you know, so it's been all I've known in my life. It's been kind of very central to my identity and to all our identities, and for that to kind of dissipate for a while, with no kind of set plan. We've always had a set plan, you know. It's always been, right, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then that's going to take us to here, and then we'll see where we're at, and if this happens, then we'll do this. If this happens, we'll do this, you know. So it was very up in the air. A lot of uncertainty in relation to what would happen with the Answer. But it was actually a phone call from our now record label head, Golden Robots. Mark, the head of that label, just contacted our management to see what the Answer were up to, and get into a conversation, and he basically said, listen, I love that band. I want them to make another record. What do they have to do to make it happen, kind of thing, you know. And then that sparked, you know, obviously contact within the band. But even at that, it wasn't by any means a done deal or a cert that we were going to get back together, because we like everybody was in a different place. We needed to have an interband conversation about whether we wanted to do this at this point in our lives, because, you know, you cannot go into the making of a record kind of half baked. You have to be all in, like it's always been, and yeah, that involved, you know, kind of not a difficult conversation, but there was a bit of soul searching had to be had, I think, and yeah, we arranged a rehearsal, thankfully, just before the world shut down, and yeah, the first session was really weird. It was kind of like meeting up with an ex-girlfriend, you know, but then, you know, within a day or two, things started to settle, and I think we all relaxed. And there were a couple of songs written that first week that are appearing on the album, and we kind of did know by the end of that session that we can do this, and I think we know what we want to do as well, because that's an important thing as well. We kind of had this clarity of vision in relation to the kind of statement we wanted to make with this record, I think, from the get-go. And in the past, the danger is that you fall into the cycle of touring, writing, recording, touring, writing, recording, touring, writing, recording, and you do kind of question what it is you're doing and why you're doing it, But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you're picking up on a band that feels re-energized, because that's very much how it feels to us. It feels great. We love the album that we've made, and I think there's a clarity to it in relation to four band members kind of working as a unit, bringing out the best in each other, and having a really good time doing it as well.
With the title track Sundowners and Brother, could you talk a bit about those two songs in particular and the meaning behind them?
Yeah, so Blood Brother, the first single, it was just one of it was a song that kind of came together really quite easily. There's a whole bunch of songs in this record that was put together during the COVID means of creating music, which normally involve checking your inbox, and there might be a riff from Paul or a verse chorus idea from Mickey, and in this case Mickey had sent through something, and it felt great, albeit kind of tracked up by Mickey in his own place. So in that situation, I take it away, put a vocal over the top of it, come up with a few ideas, send it back to Mickey, then it goes out to the other two boys, and then we arrange our the next in the room rehearsal, and we jam through what we've got at that point, and before long it molds into something that feels like an answer track, and I was one of the ones that came together via that process, and it's just a good swinging, dirty blues rock song, which I think I was going to say it's one that you can't overthink. I think we did initially overthink it. I think a little late, like kind of bridge to solo section is now kind of 4 bars long. Initially we had like this kind of, we were changing the groove, and it was turning into like a 6 or 7 minute like odyssey, and kind of looked at each other at one point in the day and went, this isn't it, is it? I was like, no, how about we just do this? And we're like, yeah, that's it. Why do we just spend the last 4 hours trying to work out this complicated part, and that's kind of, in keeping with the ethos of the record as well. It's about kind of trusting your instincts and avoiding the temptation to kind of overthink things and overwork it and kind of lose the soul of the track. But thankfully, I think we really did capture that one the way it was meant to be, And then with Sundowners, obviously, it's the title track. It opens the record as well, and for a band that very much kind of feeds off our live energy, we've actually never had a track on any record. Actually, maybe we Memphis Water almost was a full live take on Rise. So a full 7 albums ago, it's taken us to fully live track another song, and Sundowners is that, and it really was a very old school approach. We went in and we did 3 or 4 takes. Our producer looked at us and says, that's not it, you need to go away, step outside, do whatever it is you do to relax, and come back in 20 minutes and we'll try again. And we did that, and we came back in and everything just settled. It was a lovely live room in the studio in Middle Farm. My vocal booth was just a glass pane away from the guys, so it was kind of as close to being in the room together as it could possibly be. And once the vibe was there, we tracked it in no time at all. We did 3 or 4 takes, and I think we opted for the first one of those 4, and that's the take that appears in the record. And we purposely wanted to start the record with that because it's the longest track on the album, and it's kind of the trippiest, arguably the weirdest track on the record. So we're kind of like, right, if people get through that one, then gates are open. They're free to enjoy the rest of the good time rock and roll. So we'll see. We'll see.
Do you have a personal favorite track off the new album?
Well, the one I play my friends first, if I'm in the car and I've got someone with me, or if we're having drinks in the kitchen, I'm like, do you want to come out to the studio for a sneak peek? The first song I'll play is Want You to Love Me, which we're actually releasing that, I think, in a week or so. And there's a lyric video out there already for it. An amazing lyric video, actually. And yeah, it's just... It sounds like a band in a room having a great time. The drums sound really live, like a classic kind of Bonham sound. You can hear the room as well as the kit. The guitars are probably one of the kind of dirtiest guitar sound Paul's ever had on an Answer record, and it just really suits the energy of the track. And the bass just blends with the kick drum. That's amazing bottom end to it all. It's kind of, the structure of the song isn't the most obvious in the world either. There's a bit of weirdness in there, and you can hear it's also, I think, the biggest kind of speed up on an Answer record ever. It's one of those songs that you just could not do to a click track. This big extended kind of middle section, and it just gets faster and faster and faster and faster. And in days gone by, I know our drummer James, who's very methodical about what he does, and like very metronomical as well. He keeps such a steady beat. It wouldn't have been his thing at all, but like when we were listening back to it, we were just laughing, and it's like that sounds like a band having a good time, and let's just leave it all in there. So it's kind of raw and live sounding, and it's a really good song as well.
That's a great choice. A question I always like to finish on. It's a bit of a hypothetical one. If you guys could tour with one band from the past and one band from the present, who would they be?
That's a good question. I don't know if it would be the best billing in the world, but I've always said if I could see anybody perform from the past, it would be Nina Simone.
Okay.
And I think we could carry off a support tour with Nina. I just would have loved to have been in the room whenever she's doing her thing. I think she's like the most rock and roll female artist in the history of mankind, even though she wasn't a rock and roll artist. So selfishly, that's who I would opt for.
No, absolutely. It's your gig or your tour. You got to, yeah.
Yeah, but that's what will get my vote. And then current times, I don't know. We've played with an awful lot of bands that are around right now. I mean, they're by no means a new band, but I went to see them in I think it was September. They came through Dublin, and the Black Crows are still very much doing their thing. And I think I would supremely enjoy sharing a stage with those guys every night, just getting to watch the two brothers do their thing, So,
I think that'd be a great match, the Answer and Black Crows.
So too, yeah. Know anybody? Can you make a call?
I mean, I'll see what I can do, but I can't make no promises. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Cormac. And of course, for those that want to check out the new album, it's available to pre-order now, Sundowners. That's out on March the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. And of course, be sure to check out The Answer on tour as they go out on the road in March 16th, isn't it?
That's right.
Cool.
And then, the album's out. We're in Birmingham, I think, on St. Patrick's Day. Every time anybody mentions that we're bringing the album out on St. Patrick's Day, I feel like I should do an obligatory jig or something.
Was it intentional? Or was it a coincidence that it was St. Patrick's Day?
Falling in and around that handful of days, and I was like, listen, we might as well.
That's really cool. Well, thank you very much, Cormac. And it's been really cool speaking with you.
Cool, man. Thanks for having us.